Hello everyone, we're back to the game 14 of the Steinitz vs Zukertort match. This game ended in a draw, and it features some very interesting endgame things. So let's go into it right away. Spanish game Berlin. The players continue discussing this line, just as in previous games. 96, bishop d3, Lauren James again probably played bishop f1 here, but knight c3 was still a very popular move. Rook e5, c6, and this is the first critical position of the game. Steinitz plays b3 here, just like he did previously, but there is such thing as rook e1 here. Rook e1, in addition, other moves like queen f3 have been played, but rook e1 is very tricky because probably black has to play knight e8, and now queen e2, white forces black, bishop on e7 to declare his position, because wherever he goes, he'll be probably struck. Rajab played bishop f6 here, and after knight e4, d5, knight f6, knight f6, b3, rook e8, queen f1, knight e4, he gradually managed to equalize the game. There is such a thing as bishop d4, but it is kind of risky in a way, because white can play here knight g3 and go for either b3 here or bishop c2 and d4. So rook e1 has been successfully played before here. There's also another trick if white can play rook e3 here with the idea of bishop h7, queen h5, rook h3, and I think black's best solution here is to play g6, just be safe, and this actually involves quite some amount of theory here to know. This line has been played at some top level. So rook e1 was played by the Dominguez in his games. He's a great player, so let's see what Steinitz did. So he plays b3, knight e8 is a very accurate move. Bishop b2, d5, black takes control of the center. Knight on c3 kind of starts to be restricted. Queen f3, bishop f6. Other moves are worse. So rook e2, white keeps the a1 square for the other rook, and knight c7. Now the suggestion was also that black can probably play queen d6, and if a4, then knight c7, bishop a3, c5, and if rook a1, simply b6. And it's not simple for white to use his temporary piece development advantage. We can see that the computer suggests here knight b5, but after knight b5, bishop b5, bishop b6, black absolutely has no problems here, thanks in fact to his superior bishop on f6. So queen d6 is interesting, but knight c7 is a very solid move. It's actually been used in some top level games, including some games by Ivanchuk and also Andreikin by white. The idea is that black knight is going to e6, where he will control a vast amount of squares, especially the important d4 square. So bishop a3, e8, rook e1. Now Zukertort plays knight e6, somewhat surprisingly, because the black should probably consider taking on e2 to sort of minimize white's lead in the development, and then he can play knight e6. And this would probably lead to the very completely equal game. So rook e2 is interesting, but knight e6 is playable. Knight e6 is not bad. Black sort of wants to keep this rook on e2 just in case of those knight d4s coming. So white plays knight a4 because he has to improve that knight. Knight was restricted. Plays simple bishop d7 because of b6. Then again, black can play something like c4 here. And we have all sorts of crazy positions, including bishop c4, b5, bishop b6, bishop b6, knight c5, and now queen d5, which leads probably to an equal endgame. So black plays bishop b7, protects the rook, finishes the development, knight c5. Black has to take, rook takes, bishop takes, b6. And right now, Steinitz plays bishop a3, but most modern champs probably play bishop b3 in order to play bishop f4, since this bishop on f4 is much better placed than on a3, and this would be a completely equal position. Maybe white has some small chances of playing for a very slight advantage after bishop e5, but then again after even bishop e5 or maybe even rook e8, these chances are minuscule. So Steinitz commits the first inaccuracy by playing bishop e3 and allowing black to play here c5, closing the white bishop on a3, which has now almost no way to get into the game except by playing main bishop c1, followed by moving the bishop from d3 to prepare d3. However, as you can see, the computer evaluation slightly jumped in favor of black, since bishop on f6 is really strong. So c3, and now bishop e6. And now I'm thinking that maybe a5 should have been played, because black's idea is immediately to push this pawn to open the a file for the rook, for example bishop c1, a4, and white is stuck with some unpleasant choices to make. For example, bishop b1, g6, bishop b2, and we can think about playing bishop c6, d4, a3, and if white plays bishop a1, then c4, closes the bishop, completely kills him. Black probably will win the game. But if white plays bishop c1, then black just grabs the central pawn, gives the pawn up some advantage, and hopes for success. So maybe white should not play d4, but then what can he do, right? He cannot really play d3, so white is stuck to a passive defense, and a5 was a great move to try to use the uncomfortable bishop on a3 to black's advantage. Instead, black plays bishop e6, centralizing the move, sort of prepares simple queen d7, rook e8 development, but gives white this critical temper to play bishop e2, because now if black plays a5, then white has a4 move. So black plays simple queen d7, bishop c2, white is preparing d4, and rook e8 is a small inaccuracy, because there is no threat, but the sort of hints at the back rank, allowing white to make useful move h3 instead. If black could have played rook c8, preventing d4, white would still be stuck with a slightly unpleasant position after d4, and probably black is slightly better here. So something like g6, c4, then bishop e7. Black transfers now the bishop to the active diagonal, sort of, for example, queen e3, bishop g4, king g7, probably bishop g4. The game is probably very close to equal, because white is going to play d3 at some point, and he will get his bishop to c1 into the game, resulting in very close to drawish position. So, but still, rook c8 was very slightly inaccurate. So, rook e8, h3, black now plays b5, hoping to provoke d4, and hoping to play b4. So white probably plays d4, takes, rook c8, bishop d3, and bishop f5. Black exchanges those nice squared bishops in order to get access to the c2 square, and also force white to play this inferior position. So here white had a choice. Steinitz takes on f5, but that was a very curious choice to play bishop a3, using the fact that the pawn was on h3, and small inaccuracy that black played rook e8, allowing that h3 in the first place, because taking on d4 right now is impossible, because rook e7, and white kills the bishop. But if black takes on d3, then simply queen takes, and bishop manages to get to c5 square, becoming a pretty good bishop, at the same time closing off black's c file. But Steinitz happens, he just took and he plays queen g4. There was another possibility, such as by a more modern computer, of course, like playing rook c1, immediately trying to exchange that potentially very aggressive black's rook. So that if black plays h5, for example, to solve the back rank problems, then white can just play queen c3, and starting to transfer that bishop to c1, because if he plays bishop a3 immediately, although he can probably bishop a3 immediately, but there's some checks and queen e4, and after bishop c5, white probably should still make a draw. Bishop c1 is slightly more forcing, because he takes control of the f4 square, and bishop wants to go to e3, keeping the c file open for the white queen, because if black plays queen b1, then simple king h2, and if black takes on e2, then queen c8 check, king h7, queen f5 check. This is a perpetual. So that was probably an easy way for white to equalize. Instead, Steinitz decides to exchange the queens here. So we have this very interesting endgame, where Black is slightly better because of his superior bishop and potentially great rook that's coming to c2. However, white wants to play rook e2, and black cannot play rook c2 because rook e8 mates. So Zukertort plays h6 here, but he misses a very important h5 trick. Black makes a luft with the tempo attacking the g4 pawn, and obviously white has to take on h5, but that allows rook c2, and white is now forced what to do with this rook. Probably rook b1 is forced, as white plays something like bishop a3, then simple bishop d4. Black recaptures his lost material with the interest as pawn on a2 and f2 are attacked at the same time. So white probably has to play rook b1, and now we have this very important move b4, because if king h7 then white plays a4, and gets rid of his weakness on a2, and after b4, bishop c1, bishop d4, bishop e3, this game is transposed into the rook endgame, which is very close to being equal. So black has to play b4 first, and then white probably has to play a3 anyway, otherwise black king just walks up to h6 and grabs that pawn on h5 or infiltrates white king side, because white pieces are so passive, so white has to create some kind of counterplay, sacrificing even a pawn for it. So rook a1, a5, preventing that b4, which will be met by a4 now, and bishop b6. So this position is still very unpleasant for white to play, and against the modern-day grandmasters, black would have serious chances to expect a mistake on white's part, unless you have very top GM, because the difference in quality of pieces, black pieces are much better than white's pieces, and black pieces also attacking and pinning a lot of white pawns. One of the, if you can see, the three candidate moves here that the computer considers: rook d1, rook a1, bishop g3. Rook d1 is by far the best because white tries to activate his pieces at the cost of a pawn, but that activity is more important. So looking at the approximate lines, we see that the white plays g5, tries to exchange as many pawns as possible going forward into the game. And this is very close to a draw because the number of pawns is very limited. Bishop have to be exchanged. I mean, if rook d5, then we have this rook d7 check, king e6, and there is this trick with the rook d6, which allows white to transpose the game into this endgame, where he recaptures the pawn on g5, and this is very close to a draw because white will recapture this pawn on g7 thanks to his active rook, which is behind black's a pawn, and then he will push his h pawn and give up the rook with the a pawn, and it will be the draw. So still very tricky to play for white, and a real chance for black to, get some advantage. Instead, h6 has been played, and white played simply rook e2, covering the c2 square. Now black is forced to think about creating some problems. At some point around here, it is said that Zukertort offered a draw, which was declined, which is extremely surprised since white is worse, but b4 was a good move, I like it, g3, and we just have to mention that if black could also play here rook c6 immediately, and with the idea of rook a6, but if you play rook a6 here, then of course white plays bishop c3, and he's fine. So this is the reason why black plays b4. He wants to restrict white's bishop on b2 ability to move. And after g3, black plays rook a5. A straightforward plan. Instead, rook c6 was very interesting, with the idea of attacking the pawn on a2. So white plays really carelessly, plays something like king g2, then black plays rook a6, bishop a1, because bishop c1 loses the pawn. And now black has this incredible resource by playing rook a3, and for example f4, a5, the pawn goes to a4, and black is a superior version of the endgame. So white is forced to give up one of the pawns. For example, if he plays king f1, then a4, and if he takes and simply b3 and wins the game for black. So that rook c6 was very interesting maneuver. White is probably forced to play rook d2, and after rook a6, bishop c1, which is the reason why he played g3, so he can meet bishop g5 with a4. And if rook e6, king f1, rook e4, White probably has to play rook c2 or f3. I think f3 is the most clean way to play this position, because after rook takes d4, bishop takes d4 or king d2, rooks are exchanged, and thanks to black's pawns being fixed on the black color, which means that they can be possibly targeted by white's bishop, this position is very close to a draw, as it is extremely difficult for black to make any progress, as he has no targets, and his extra pawn on d5 is easily blocked by the king on d3. So, rook c6 was very interesting. Instead, Zukertort plays a5. He sees a very interesting plan where he plays a4, forces white to take, and rook a8. His plan is now to recapture the a4 pawn, creating very active rook, which can potentially hit the d4 pawn, but right now we'll be hitting the a2 pawn. Now white plays rook e1, which according to Steinitz he considers to be the only move. However, it is not a great move. He should have played a3 here, because the resulting position after either bishop d4 or rook a4, bishop c5, black is forced to go into this endgame, which results in rook endgame 2 versus 3 on the same flank, and is considered to be, in modern day and age, an easy draw for the defending side. So he should have played a3 here, because black takes on d4 first, and bishop b2, and rook d2, and we transpose into the same rook endgame. Instead, Steinitz plays rook e1 very passively, and after rook a1, now his position is actually seriously worse, as we can see. But Zukertort didn't find the right plan. He plays king f8. Instead, he should have played bishop e7, fixing white's pawn on a2, and forcing white to run with his king to the queen side, which therefore leaves open the white's king side kind of open. And white's total passivity makes it very difficult for him to improve his pieces or bishop or touch any piece at all, except the king, since the bishop c1 and b3, the rook is tied to the defense of a2 pawn. So let's see what might have happened. King h7, and now it's extremely important to play rook a6, and the rook on the 6th rank gets an ability to move the rook to e6. And white is stuck with this slightly worse, not with slightly, but a seriously worse endgame, as there is a serious threat to play king g5 or rook e2 here. If white doesn't push his king to c2, or he plays something like bishop c1 here, hoping, to balance his king between the queen side and king side, then f5 looks pretty strong, as white is forced to take, and now there is a question how white is going to stop black king infiltration to the king side, to the g4 f3 square, so to the e4 square. You can see the valuation is huge for black now, it's minus 35, which means black has huge practical chances to win this game. So that was very, very interesting plan that Zukertort missed. Instead, he decides to bring in the king. He can still play bishop e7 here, although the king on f8 now is not that great, because black ideally should have played king g6 followed by f5, infiltrating the white's king side. Instead, in the game, he plays king e7, but after king d3, white successfully managed to free himself by playing a3, and we get into this endgame, which is completely drawn, except for the fact that Steinitz now starts to play really carelessly, and he makes a huge inaccuracy here. So this is a draw if white just moves his bishop to d6, c5. Instead, Steinitz plays bishop g7, which reminds me of the similar episode in the game, World Championship game. I think it was the first game of the match or second game of the match between Fischer and Spassky, where Fischer, in a similar bishop endgame, he went for the h2 pawn, lost his bishop, and even though after many analysis by many grandmasters, that simple endgame looks really tricky, but it was incredibly complex, and it was finally established that that endgame for the Fischer, being bishop down, was still a draw. However, he made some inaccuracies and he lost the game. Luckily for Steinitz, his opponent played h5 here. Instead, f6 would have created huge problems for white, because after bishop h6, g5, that bishop on h6 is completely cut off, and he will be captured thanks in part to those white's double pawns on the g file. So the question is how to evaluate this position, and thanks to the computers, thanks to a lot of analysis previously done in this game, it's now established that this game is a draw. The fastest way for white to play, to make the surest ways to play king c3 and run with the king immediately to attack this pawn on d5. So after bishop b7, f4, or king b3, doesn't matter really. Probably f4 is better, king f7. Now white gives up this pawn, and this is a critical move here. You don't play f5 check. Black is unable to stop white king from going to c6 and grabbing this d5 central pawn, which is a huge thing. For example, bishop d6, f5, bishop g3, and king c5, resulting in a drawn position as white king will be black will be unable to kick white king out of the square. So basically just white moves back and forth, and the idea is that if black tries to force white to play his king away from d5 square, white plays king e4, and he wants to go back to d5 immediately, and if black plays king c6 after f6, black might actually end up in a worse position, so he better force a draw here. So this is a draw. The lines given previously by other commentators, they suggest that white should have played f4 immediately and played f5, but I think this is inaccurate, even though this is still a draw, this position, because what happens here is that white gives up his central d4 pawn. However, even here, this position, this is a draw because, again, black is unable to force white kings away from the center. And if black plays king c6, this position is still a draw, as white's combined threat of playing king g6 followed by king g7 f7 is still a draw. So for example, let's take a look here. Black plays king d7, king f5, bishop f4, king g6. Let's say if king e8 and king g7, the threat is f7 check. Bishop f5, king g6 forces repetition, and if black plays king g6, then white just plays f7, king g7, king g7 is a draw, and bishop d6 and king g5. I was more curious about what would have happened if white actually allows black to block this pawn and play king f8. As we can see, this is still a draw because king simply walks along the f6 g6 squares. Bishop cannot be transferred to the e7 square, as he has to protect the g5 pawn, and black king cannot play king e7 because of king g7 losing the game. So this is still a draw, and we conclude that in this pretty amazing endgame, usually such position considers completely winning, but this is an exception, and white makes successful defense having only pawn for bishop. So in the game, it turns out, so in the end, turns out that Steinitz did not lose this game by playing bishop g7, and if black found this f6 resource. However, in the game, Zukertort plays h5, and after gh5, gh5, bishop e5, king d7, the game is a draw, and here both players agreed on a draw. There is one nuance that I want to mention here, is that in the blitz, some of the strong players, including grandmasters, they will hope to play for this f5, f4 pawn break, and the white will have to be careful here. So for example, if you play king e3, king e6, and white suddenly plays f3, then he's already worse, because after bishop g5, king e3 or king e2, doesn't matter, f5 black actually threatens to play f4, creating a pass pawn here. There's this little trick with king e2 actually. Yeah, king e2 is bishop f6, and you can see black is already has a huge advantage because bishop cannot be removed. On a5 he cannot leave, pawn d4 is hanging, which is the reason why white plays king d3, but after f5, king e2, f4. Right, white cannot capture with the bishop, it's gonna be a dead lost pawn in game, so he captures here. After bishop h6, king f5, there's another important trick. Again, it's very good for your blitz skills. If white cannot play king g3 because of bishop f4 check, and he is lost thanks to this h4 check and king f4, and white is losing both f3, d4 pawns, and he is not on time to make an opposition, so he is lost. So watch out for tricks like that. Instead, white should play bishop d6 and bishop b4 and try to hold this game. Now black most likely to play bishop g5 and king e6 with the idea of running with his king to the b5, c4, attacking this d4 pawn. Black is obviously better, that there is no need to panic. White can still defend this position because here if bishop d4, king c5 makes a draw, and if bishop d8, then this position is a draw. It does require certain calculation, but this is a draw. But again, this was the strong attempt by Black to force White to be more creative in his defense, and this is what Morgenchian would have done if he was playing Black. But the gentlemen in the 19th century, they agreed on a draw in this position, and of course, if White plays king f3, just keeps his king here, it's very likely to be a draw, because bishop f6 in this case is really bad for Black, as you just simply play king f4, and White wins the position, and this is a winning game for White. So, this was the game 14 of the Steinitz-Zukertort match. We saw that it was a very instructive endgame, especially the rook and bishop endgame. White got nothing in the opening, then he slowly slipped into the worse position, and at some point he was in the danger of really getting a dangerous position. But Zukertort didn't find the right plan, and the game ended in a draw. So, we're looking forward to the next game of the match. There are only several games left, and right now Steinitz is leading by +2, I believe, and see you soon.